Hello, viewers, and welcome to the NKR YouTube channel. My name is Mahima Rao, and I'm an intern here at NKR. So today we have Elizabeth Campbell here to talk to us about her paper, First Ladies of the DPRK, Categorizing the Roles of Kim Family Women Throughout North Korean History, which has been published in our spring 2024 issue. Her paper, as Elizabeth describes it, works on developing a classification system for North Korean first ladies based on their political involvement, public image, and for those who have passed away, their lasting legacy. Before we start, Elizabeth, I'd like to invite you to please introduce yourself to our viewers.
Okay, thank you. Hi. I'm originally from Canada, but I have a master's degree in cultural studies from KU Leuven in Belgium, and I recently graduated with my PhD in North Korean studies from the College of Public Policy of Korea University. And I did that degree through the Korea Scholarship Program or the Global Korea Scholarship Program. So in the last several months, I've been working on some papers related to my dissertation topic, which was on the semiotics of food and agricultural imagery in North Korean publications, some posters, and then at some restaurants in Beijing. So I'm hoping to get that turned into a book in a couple of years, but we will see. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, just one more thing. Elizabeth here used to actually intern with us at NKR, so it's really nice having you back. Yay,
Yeah,
welcome.
it's been a while since I've seen everybody, but yeah,
Mm.
I think I interned. I think my last year was spring 2023. I think I took
Mhm.
that last year off to finish my dissertation.
Yeah. Okay, so let's jump right in. So my first question, how have the roles of Kim family women evolved from the era of Kim Il-sung to Kim Jong-un in terms of political and social influence?
So it's a very complicated question. I wrote a 10,000 word paper just trying to classify it. And there's a very small group of women that can kind of be put under this, that can be put in this group. So within my paper, I chose 6 women. And I think these days, maybe you could up that to 7 if you're including Kim Jong-un's daughter. But since she's just a child, it's a little hard to really include her in a study that really needs to take into account how much of a choice and how much autonomy the figure had. So that's why I elected not to include her in the paper that I wrote. But I would say that the first, I guess, the first woman that I included as a political figure in the Kim family was Kim Jong-suk, who was possibly the second wife of Kim Il-sung, but she was the first lady of North Korea because she was his wife at the time that he became the leader of North Korea. And she died quite young. She died in 1949. She herself, I believe, was only in her mid 30s, and she had a very short period of time during which she was the first lady. However, her legacy was really expanded upon, especially in the 1970s, when her son, Kim Jong il, was in charge of the propaganda and agitation department. So he really built her up as a public figure. So while she only was the leader's wife, excuse me, she was only the first lady for maybe a year, and had very an active role for that short year, but was not a hugely active political figure based on what we know. Her legacy has been built up, and the way that she's talked about in North Korean media and North Korean history is very, very grand. That she was absolutely brilliant, and she would somehow be able to advise people on designing buildings, and at the same time she was a phenomenal cook, and at the same time she was able to take out an assassin that almost killed Kim Il sung. And at the same time, she was the perfect mother. All of these things. So she, while in real life may not have had that important of a role, posthumously, she has had a very important role in North Korean society, and she's had a lot of influence. I say she has had a lot of influence. It's perhaps not really her influence, but is influence that has been manufactured under her name and under her image. So she was the first lady, technically, and then Kim Il Sung's possibly third wife, but the first wife that he had after Kim Jong Su's passing was Kim Song A. And she was actually quite politically active. She was very, very involved in his government. She was very involved in the Women's Union of North Korea. She also traveled internationally. She represented North Korea alongside Kim Il Sung at various international events. So quite a political figure. However, because Kim Jong-suk was the one who was being held up as, the perfect first lady, the perfect mother, the perfect wife, the perfect North Korean woman, and because Kim Song-ae had some conflict with Kim Jong-il and he was so influential in the media, her legacy has mostly been destroyed or erased. Like we still know of her. There's images of her, of course, like she has not been erased from the history books entirely, but a lot of the work that she did and her legacy has really just been pushed to the side and has been erased within the North Korean annals of history.
Mhm.
So for a long period of time, essentially the entire time that Kim Jong-il was the leader, there was no official first lady, but there were a couple of women who did act as a first lady. And I make that argument in my book that they were basically substitute first ladies. Kim Kyung-hee, who was Kim Jong-il's sister, and Ko Young-hee, so kind of similar names, who was his likely second domestic partner, possible second wife. The legal status of their relationship is a little bit shaky, but they were together for a very long time and they had two children together who are Kim Jong-un and Kim Yo-jong. So kind of the two most famous of Kim Jong-il's many children. So these two women, his sister and his common law possible legal wife, did attend some events with him, especially Kim Kyung-hee, who is his sister, was very politically active. She had a mid to high ranking role in the North Korean government under her brother. And while neither of them got the official title, they were, I would say, the most powerful and influential living women in the Kim family. While, Kim Jong-suk was still being talked about as this incredible woman and her image was still very present, they were the most influential and powerful living women. And then in this newest generation, we have two women who, one I've already mentioned, Kim Yo-jong, who is Kim Jong-un's wife, and she is the official First Lady of North Korea. She has that title. She has all of the honors. And the other one is, of course, Kim Yo-jong, who is his sister and holds a very high position in the government. So you can see the way that these women's roles have shifted and changed have very much varied on the individual and also their legal status in terms of their tie to the leader. So one was his legal official wife. She maybe didn't have all that much power, all that influence during her life, likely because her life ended very soon after she became first lady. But in the media and in history, very well respected, talked about very often, very held up as a wonderful representative of North Korean women. Then Kim Song-ae, who had a much larger role and was the first lady for a much longer period of time, essentially she has been erased. She's not spoken about. She's not really acknowledged. Then we had two women, Ko Young-hee and Kim Kyung-hee, who never got the title, never had that position, but did a lot of work and were quite influential, both within the family and arguably there's some argument with Ko Young-hee of how politically active she was, but she definitely had an important role within the family, both because of her tie to Kim Jong-il, the fact she made public appearances with him, and being the mother of Kim Jong-un and Kim Yo-jong. And then now we've got Ri Sol-ju, who is this very glamorous, very cosmopolitan representative of North Korean women and representative of the Kim family. And we have Kim Yo-jong, who frankly is a very frightening and intimidating public figure. She is not portrayed, although she is married and she is a mother, as far as we know, she's never portrayed as being maternal. There is no emphasis on her maternal instincts, on her femininity, on her grace, on her charm, anything like that, unlike with Ri Sol-ju.
Mhm.
So sorry, that's a very long answer. I did my best to summarize everything.
No, it's perfect. I mean, it was a broad question. But again, because you brought up Kim Yo-jong and Ri Sol-ju and the sort of difference in what kind of image they're being given. Um, what do you think that the representations of these respective women, Kim Yo-jong and Ri Sol-ju, reflect on the broader societal changes and the regime's approach to modernization in North Korea?
I don't know that you could make the argument that the roles of the Kim family women represent broader social changes
Mm.
within North Korea because these women are so privileged. They have so many opportunities and privileges that everyday North Korean women will never, ever have access to in their lives. However, we can look at these women and their roles and see some interesting goals of the government and kind of figure out,
Mm.
okay, because these are public images. We do not know them as real people. We only know them as the public images that have been professionally constructed. That's it. These, for all intents and purposes, the image of Kim Yo Jong that we have and the image of Ri Sol Ju that we have, they do not exist. So you look at how they have been styled and how they have been managed, especially Ri Sol-ju. When she first came on the scene around 2013, she kind of looked like Kim Jong-un's secretary. And I do not mean to make a value statement on her appearance or her fashion or anything like that. But if you were to put her next to the First Lady of China or the First Lady of Japan or the First Lady of South Korea, she did not fit in. She looked like she was there as a secretary or a translator. The way that she was styled, the way she dressed, and more importantly, the way that she carried herself did not meet the standard of the globalized first lady that we have in China, Japan, South Korea, these other Asian countries. But she kind of had a re-debut around 2017, 2018, and she had essentially had an entire makeover. And now, when she was standing next to the First Lady of South Korea or standing next to the First Lady of China, she really looked like she belonged there. And I also believe that she had had some media training in that time because while she doesn't make media appearances in the traditional sense, she's not making public speeches to the rest of the world. When you hear stories from people who have met her and you hear stories of people who have had interactions with Kim Jong Un and his wife and their party when they travel abroad, she does a really good job of kind of playing the peacemaker, I want to say. So, as an example, I believe it was Becoming Kim Jong Un, which is a book that came out around 2019 or 2020. There's a story in there about one of the 2018 meetings between Kim Jong Un and President Moon Jae-in, and Ri Sol-ju was there. And apparently, someone from the South Korean government made some kind of joke to Kim Jong Un about how he needs to stop smoking because it's really bad for his health. That's quite a disrespectful thing to say in any context, but especially in that context. And according to this story, everyone kind of froze, and Kim Jong Un looked really angry, and no one really knew what to do. And Ri Sol-ju stepped in and said something like, "Oh, I tell him every day he needs to stop smoking. He never listens to me, husbands," and kind of made it into a joke. So I think her role is perhaps a peacemaker is a wrong word, but her role is to humanize Kim Jong Un and to help with these kind of awkward social interactions and just smooth things over and to be a diplomat. She is a representative of North Korea. She is there to make all of these interactions really pleasant and to represent the country well. And Kim Yo Jong is quite opposite. I have heard her described in like quite disrespectful terms as basically being like Kim Jong Un's guard dog. I don't like that terminology. I think it's disrespectful, but she is in a way a guardian of Kim Jong Un and of the Kim family. If you look at media statements being released by North Korea, oftentimes these threatening statements as in if South Korea and North Korea go ahead with these military drills they have planned, they will face severe consequences. These kinds of statements, they are directly attributed to a member of the North Korean government. And in some cases, it's her. So it's rare that you will have Kim Jong-un, or less common that you'll have Kim Jong-un making these really aggressive statements. Kim Yo-jong will make the statements. She will go on TV, she will appear on camera, and she will make these statements. Additionally, when you see them in public appearances, she's always right behind him. She's watching over him, she's looking out for him. And I think her role, therefore, is to be an intimidator. She's very cool. She's very calm. She's not in any way feminine or maternal or warm or inviting. She is there to make people uncomfortable and to kind of put forward this image that we are a powerful and strong country and nation, and we are not to be messed with.
Hmm. That's really interesting to see.
And that's not something we really saw with the previous first ladies. You know, it's not something we really saw. Like, yes, Kim Jong-il was never portrayed as being like this super nice maternal figure, but she also was not making statements on behalf of her brother, warning enemy nations not to mess with them. And she was not attending events like the Olympics as the sole representative of her country, like Kim Yo-jong did in 2018.
Yeah, that's true. And because you brought up Lee Sol-ju sort of being maybe like a diplomat or a peacemaker, so like how do you think sort of like this evolving role of women within the Kim family might influence broader regional perceptions or diplomatic relations between North Korea and the rest of East Asia?
I think if we look at the period of like 2018 to 2019, this kind of almost peacemaking period before everything kind of fell apart, she was a very important part of that movement because, like I said, she was going with Kim Jong-un and doing all of these public appearances and meeting with all of these global leaders and just making everyone believe, wow, look how metropolitan and look how cosmopolitan is what I meant to say, and international and refined and well-educated and respectable North Korea is. So I think part of her role with her, perfect hair and her beautiful skin and her designer clothes and her Chanel handbags and her beautiful speech and all of this, part of her role is to say, look at how successful North Korea is as a nation. Look, you think that we all live in the dirt. You think that we are extremely poor. You think we are struggling. If I was struggling, would I look like this? Would I be this serene? Would I be this calm? Would I be the mother of this beautiful, happy, cherubic faced daughter? Would I have a husband that shows me so much respect? It's creating this image of the perfect North Korean nuclear, it's kind of ironic nuclear family that represents all families in North Korea.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's a pretty good answer, actually. So, that was our final question. Thank you for your answers and thank you for your time. It's been really lovely having you here with us today.
Thank you.
And
And I do apologize for any of my pronunciation. I am a little bit nervous and I'm not a native Korean speaker. So I did my best to pronounce everything correctly and to have the proper intonation. But I acknowledge that I often make mistakes. So I do apologize. I didn't mean any disrespect.
no, I'm sure our viewers are very forgiving of that. So
I
again,
hope.
and yeah, so thank you for our viewers for watching. It's been lovely. Goodbye.